Welcome to Parvate ESG. I'm Jim Allenby. Delighted to have Nick Hobson joining us for a bit of a Q&A for you. I'll get started. Nick, what are your first impressions of ESG having come out of a professional services firm?
Thanks, Jim. My first impressions would be that Australia appears to be a fair bit behind, particularly Europe and the US, in their knowledge and regulation of ESG and ESG metrics. There seems to be a big gap in the market in knowledge from some companies compared to others, and I think that's where we can help out.
Fantastic. On that point, what challenges do you see for an organisation in achieving some ESG results?
I think some of the initial challenges will be about where and who the responsibility lies with ESG metrics, particularly with capacity of finance teams within an organisation. I think there's a big learning exercise and also a capacity exercise about who and how these metrics will be defined and delivered.
Yeah, fantastic. And having sat through a few of our training modules, what do you see the benefits of training in ESG for professional type people?
I think just to start, just the ability to be able to hold a short conversation with your clients is a massive upside for a professional, particularly with such a new and up-and-coming area, I guess, of the professional services environment. The ability to be able to hold a conversation with clients and share that knowledge with them will be very important, I think, particularly in the next year or two, as Australia nears in on defining ESG metrics, which I think may form part of annual reports or financial reports going forward.
Yeah, fantastic. Certainly agree there. I think something I've certainly noticed is it's quite a difficult subject to explain simply. So getting an understanding of how to hold that conversation up front is a really important part of this, and it's an expectation of an accountant, a professional services provider, a board member, an investor. Most people now need to have some sort of literacy in ESG to be able to hold that conversation, and that's certainly how we've decided to try and sort of frame our learning modules. From what you've seen and experienced over these first few weeks with Parvate, we're in April 2023. For a company to get started in this ESG, aside from some training, what would you suggest is a good first step for them?
I think just reading what is available, I would start with the TCFD framework as just a first step about learning what some of the frameworks are in place relating to ESG. And I think that will help with that ability to hold a conversation with a client as a very much a starting point. I think the challenge is the overwhelm of information with taking that first step. But I think the most important thing is just taking that first step and beginning the journey, because it's going to be something that's going to take a couple of years of learning, myself included. But like you said, the first thing is just getting started.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And we've certainly identified that TCFD is a mature metric to look at the risks of climate change. And something at Parvate ESG that we've developed is a maturity assessment for climate change expectations, as well as a maturity assessment for ESG. And what this is quite a short process for a company to undertake an online questionnaire. And the output for that is a robust report that outlines the expectations of the company and what is going to be happening going forward in a report format that can be provided to the board. And with that in mind, it's and Nick's comment so far, it's low touch for the client or the person who needs to do the questionnaire, and it certainly is high output in terms of a very robust report which covers off a lot of the ESG topics or climate change topics, so that the company or organisation or person can work through that in an orderly manner. So I think the rabbit hole of ESG can make you go into some weird and wonderful places, as I've certainly found out over the last few years. So trying to narrow it down to what is most important for the here and now. Just one last question for you, Nick, before we get going. Where do you see ESG expectations going in the future, and who do you think will be responsible for this?
Yeah, I think they're only going to continue to increase. I think in the early few weeks here, we've met with professors at one of the universities in Western Australia, and the ESG literacy is now forming part of finance and accounting university studies. So I think we'll see an influx of graduates and young people to the profession who have an understanding of ESG. So I think it will be imperative for professionals to upskill themselves to a base knowledge around it. And I think, to your point about where it's going and the responsibility, I think, towards the finance teams within an organisation is where a lot of it appears to be falling, particularly once there's defined regulations and reporting requirements, which potentially could be coming in from as early as June 2024, which for a finance team, they would want to start reporting or getting some metrics in place as early as June this year, I think.
Fantastic. Certainly agree. And for all you busy CFOs, COSECs and accounting types, I'm sure you're looking forward to the extra workload. So that's it for today. I want to thank Nick for coming in and discussing this with us. Hopefully it's an interesting conversation and where we see ESG fitting. We're delighted with having Nick on board at Parvate with his background in accounting and finance and his knowledge of larger and smaller organisations. So we look forward to more coming from him. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.